right, Greenleaf fans. Yes, I'm actually early. It isn't Thursday. It isn't Friday. I'm doing my episode review for Greenleaf on Wednesday. This is for the third day, season 5, episode 3. We only have 5 episodes left, so let's enjoy them while we can. Now, before going any further, make sure you take a moment to give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Hit the bell notification icon. That way you don't miss out whenever I post new content. And, well, if you would like to, follow me on social media. Links to all those platforms are in the description box below. I didn't watch the episode live because I was just chilling in bed listening to music. I was tired last night. I got back to my apartment yesterday morning after 5 days at home, unpacking, laundry, all that other stuff, and I needed a break. So I did feel bad because I did want to live tweet. Some people were hitting me up last night saying they didn't really like this episode that much at all. Some people were saying they didn't like the direction the show was going, and I wouldn't say this was the most exciting episode, but I also wouldn't call it a filler episode. I definitely think that it was decent setup for what's to come, and to be honest, I will say this much. I don't even have 2 pages of notes for the episode, which is uncommon because the first 2 episodes I had like 2.5, 3 pages of notes, but stuff did happen. It just wasn't a pop-off kind of episode like the ones before it. So, what would I score this episode? I probably about a 7.5 out of 10. 7.5 out of 10. Like, it wasn't bad, but it was just, not every episode is going to be a banger. But it is difficult to comprehend that since we only have 8 episodes total to wrap up the series. So without further ado, let's jump into the episode. I know you're tired of me doing this little introduction. And guys, we got a lot of Sophia in this video episode, and she was cursing. So make sure you check out my interview with Desiree Ross on the channel because I interviewed her for about 90 minutes. Now, we start off the episode. Grace is just sitting by the lake. Darius comes up with coffee and pretty much gives her the details about how he's going to Vegas to do some investigating into the Edenvale Lending, which was the organization that Cal told her about in last week's episode. Turns out he got fired last night. His editor called, said they're scrapping the H&H story, as well as, Darius losing his job. Obviously, Bob Whitmore is doing a cover-up, so the question is, was it because they went to see Cal and they somehow knew about that, and as a result, they covered up the story? Because that just brings up so many questions. Like, did Bob have the paper on watch for Grace? Like, hey, if Grace Greenleaf comes by and talks with Darius or whoever else, or Darius starts asking questions, well, we need to scrap the story. So that just lets me think about if Grace hadn't, and I'm not trying to call her Snoopy, but if she wasn't snooping, would the story have come out? Like, why would they have Bob do the interview and then scrap it all together? I think that because it was discovered Grace was snooping, that's why the story got dropped. At least that's my opinion. So in any case, paying for the ticket himself because he got fired from the paper, Darius is about to leave. He kisses her. Grace is a bit stunned, but she doesn't totally reject the kiss, and then Darius leaves. Carissa wakes up Jacob, pretty much nagging him about the fact that, he doesn't have a job yet, and to go pick up their son that afternoon after he's coming out at chess club, or just chess. That's something I really wish I would have learned how to play when I was little. And she says she'll move out of the house once she's made sure that her and her children are financially taken care of. And Jacob's like, "Arr." All right, so Bishop and May are sitting downstairs trying to come up with a name for the church, and she wants Bishop to get a physical. Obviously, he doesn't want to. And turns out that Bishop wants to make Charity AP of their new church. May pretty much chastises her as usual, and Charity goes to work after rejecting the offer. Because, hey, I'm AP already at Harmony, the upcoming Harmony and Hope, but May pretty much tells it like it is, but she does it in a very harsh way because she's like, well, Charity, don't you just see they're using you? And that's pretty much, you're just a showstopper, I guess. Pretty much somebody they're using for their own purposes. So Jacob and Tasha, they link up again. They're going to see Tara, and Yeah, that's about it. I mean, this episode, I feel like it did. I feel like for me personally, watching it again, it wasn't a bad episode. I think they did more jumping around than they usually do. But the thing is, we only get like 30 seconds with these people. Then we move over to another scene, and then we go back to the other people we left 30 seconds ago. So it felt like a lot of the scenes didn't have that. There wasn't a lot of meat on the bone, is what I'm trying to say. Like, there were some scenes that were kind of just there. I don't feel like this episode did a good job of making sure the scenes had an impact. Now, there were some scenes that were good, but there were other scenes that were kind of just there to take up time, but they really didn't do anything to make me go, oh, that was a good scene. I feel like that's why this episode kind of rubbed people the wrong way. But again, that's just my opinion. So we got Sophia and Zora. Looks like they went online on all the sites to clean up the pictures. So looks like Sophia's titty pits are off the internet. And she's obviously mad and starts tossing Nikki's clothes in the trash, even though some of those are Zora's. Nikki comes in, get into a fight after she brings up the fact that, well, at least I can have babies. Dun, dun, dun. Sophia goes into fight mode. Dun, 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 and then Zora breaks it up. And wow. Zora kicks out Nikki. Can't believe it. And then Zora just tells Sophia, look, I did not tell Nikki that you couldn't have babies. Did Sophia ever tell Dante? I don't think she did. I just know that she said I never had sex before, but that was it. I don't think she ever mentioned the no baby thing. But to be completely honest here, given that, I mean, again, I could be completely wrong, but given the fact that Zora was pretty much a B word to Sophia for quite a while, it wouldn't surprise me if she told Nikki just because they felt the same kind of way about Sophia. That's what I think. Again, I could be completely wrong here, but that's what I think. All right. So then Noah comes to the Greenleaf house, and AJ still isn't seeing them at the hospital. And I don't know if it's just me, but did Grace look extra fine in this scene? I don't know if it's because of the way she had her hair, the way she was rocking the jeans, the heels, and then I don't know why, but I just like, okay, Grace, I'm not saying she doesn't always look beautiful, but for some reason, this outfit just hit me different. I don't know what it was, but I was like, okay. But May's pretty much like that parent that wants to shove their child into a relationship, and she's just gushing over Noah. Grace and Bishop just cannot. And there's somebody outside honking the horn. I apologize. They just can't stand this act. But Grace gets up and leaves. But I love the fact that, and I'm just going to skip over a couple scenes to, continue this conversation. Because like I said before, they do a lot of jumping in this episode. Noah said he's going to be around for a while, staying at his mom's house. He's going to find his own place, get a job or whatever. He just wants to be close to his son. And May's like, oh, when Zora goes to college, you can have the Oak home outside and this and that. And Grace just gets up. Bishop goes after her. I just love how Bishop calls her out. And he's like, well, all I was saying, it was nice to have you around. And I love how Bishop called out May for being wrong in her approach, but also called out Grace because May had a point in the fact that, look, regardless, I'm not saying you have to marry Noah. I'm not saying you have to arrange a marriage, but you have to be a family. You have to be a unit. Like, yes, I didn't love how May was kind of just shoving like, hey, Noah, you can stay here and do this and that. But I love the fact that it's like, look, one parent gave him up. One parent didn't know he existed. You need to be united front in order to make a minimum effort to get to know the boy and set him on the right path. I love that. So in a moment, it felt like she came out of her, oh, I'm May and I know what's best, to, hey, let's break down this situation and what's the best way to approach it. I like that. And then I love how Bishop backed her up and also called Grace out for her not really giving Noah a chance. Like, you're really pushing Noah away when I'm not saying you have to be in love with him, but just work together with him, because Grace has just been making a lot of selfish decisions, and she feels like she has to handle everything alone. And like it or not, they're going to have to be a family. And I really love this scene. So going back a couple of scenes, Zora pretty much gives Sophia some advice about how she needs to channel that anger, like get back into running because you're really good at it, or just be productive, come up with a hobby. And I really, yeah, that scene was like, again, 30 seconds. All right, so then we go over to Charity and Phil. Phil wants, and I know the trailer was misleading because it made it seem like, oh, Judy and Phil want the first voice, the preaching voice, for the people to hear in their new church on Sunday to be Charity. But it turns out they just wanted her to do the welcome. And I'm like, dang, the welcome is pretty much for like, like a child to do, or maybe a deacon or somebody like that, just to get them up, to get the crowd pumped up, so to speak, when they're not doing the offering or whatever. It's just like the first voice they hear. But to make the AP do it and then not have them preach is like, wow. Like, basically, May's words are coming to pass, and Charity's just having to sit there and deal with it. And turns out, also asked if Charity could help Judy with the music, and he says that he'll bring up the conversation of having Charity preach next Sunday, but she knows it's not going to happen. So we go over to Tasha and Jacob, and there's no telling where Rochelle is right now. Maybe she made it to Mexico, but Tasha got the call about Basie's death. So Rochelle, it isn't fully confirmed if she's alive, but it's very likely that she is. Too bad we're most likely not going to see her. Tasha walks him into her church and talks about how God promised her that one day a Greenleaf will be coming down to see her to have the truth revealed. And what I loved about this is that, Jacob complimented her, fellowship hall. And, unlike his parents, who he's been trying to get off of that $1 million church kind of idea, mega church, to a more grounded, organization, it hit home. And to be honest, this is the kind of church I like because, being in Lynchburg for so long, being in a place like Thomas Road and all these other churches around, I'm more of the Baptist church, because I go to a Baptist church, that's where I grew up and everything. I'm more inclined for those smaller church congregations than to having a few thousand people in the church. I love those, one-on-one or like 1 to 20 kind of thing versus, 5,000 people in the same building. So I really like that. And just based off of what Jacob was doing last season with Dante and being there for youth, this makes sense. This is his kind of turf. So I really like the fact that Tara was being open with him and pretty much asking the hard question about if she thought that Bishop was responsible for her father's death. And she didn't want to go too far into it because she really doesn't know what's going on, but at least she agreed to connect with Jacob once he has some more information and get his facts straight, and then they could possibly work together on this. So Sophia gets a call from AJ, and again, just another scene that's there for a second, but let's just jump ahead. Noah and Grace are at the hospital once again. Noah has to ring it in to Grace. Look, he's our son. You pacing around is making me crazy. We just have to calm down and wait for him to call us back. Sophia shows up, goes to see AJ. Turns out that he loved the playlist that she sent him. She brought his sweatshirt, and he pretty much says like, "Hey, you're my sister. I wanted to say goodbye before I leave because they're about to let me out of here." And she curses, and I'm like, "What?" She said shit, and she said bullshit, and I'm only saying it because she said it. But at the same time, it's like, look, I'm your sister. You say we're family and all, but you need to let me know what's going on in order to. I feel like you at least owe me that as your sister to tell me why you're leaving, because guess what? I'll tell our mother to leave you alone and whatnot, but you need to tell me why you're leaving. And based on Sophia's face when she comes out of the hospital room, I think it's safe to say that AJ told Sophia about what happened. And then Grace goes back there. And yes, I know I'm skipping some parts, but I really need to say these scenes together because, like I said, they're only like a few seconds long. Grace goes back there, and it's just like I predicted, except it was HIV instead of AIDS. Same idea. But he got, taken advantage of multiple times in prison because he said one of the B words had HIV. So obviously he was taken advantage of more than one time. And the episode ends with Grace, tearing up because, as AJ said, I want to tell you, but I don't want to talk about it. So going back a few scenes, Corinne and Jacob. And hang on a second. I'm sorry, Corinne, Bishop, and May, they're pretty much trying to pull their resources together about who can help out with the new church. She's like, look, since you said Charity's not going to take the job as AP or work at the church, because May doesn't want to ask her again. Corinne's like, fine, I'll do the music, because let's be real here, in the bar where you're at, you're not going to need anyone more than who could just hit the play button and at least lead a small, a choir, or at least at the very least a congregation. Tasha calls someone on the phone saying that I had a very interesting conversation with Jacob Greenleaf right now. So could it be Rochelle? Did she call Rochelle? Who knows? Then we switch over to Jacob dropping off Tasha. Turns out he actually did like her. It wasn't some messed up fling between the two. And he's getting a divorce, and he stops her from kissing him, saying that no, we'll do it right this time. We'll try to get to know each other again after the divorce is finalized. He goes back home, and I think Carissa's on the phone with her lawyer saying like, no, he still hasn't have a job yet. And she hangs up when Jacob comes with their son. And I love the fact that Jacob is pretty much, oh, you know what, Carissa, do what you got to do. I'm going to talk to my father right now. And she's like, whoa, what's going on? And I just love the fact that she's just hanging this wheel over his head, but like an anvil, like, the coyote and the road runner. But unbeknownst to her, he's been doing his research. So if he gets the right information, it could pretty much cancel out her plans. Like last week, you tell Zora what happened, mainly her and Fernando, I'll use that will. And now it's like, oh, no. If you try to renegotiate it to where you're having joint custody instead of secondary custody, I'll use the will. And I'm like, this woman here. But in any case, we go over to Jacob talking with Bishop, asking if he called Daryl James. And Bishop said he didn't. Apparently, he didn't even know about the first will. And Jacob said, like, okay, the mystery still needs to be fully unfolded. And May goes over to Charity, gives her her first hymn book, and it says Reverend on the inside. Pretty much kind of random. I mean, this was kind of random for May to do, to be honest. Like, again, I'm not saying it was a bad scene. It was actually pretty nice to see the two on somewhat good terms, but it kind of came out of left field. But basically, May's like, I want you to be AP, if you're up for it. So it's almost like, and again, I'm not saying this as I hate Charity thing, but it's like, it feels rather undeserved, if you ask me. It's like, I know people deserve second chances, but I don't feel like Charity has done anything to deserve the AP position of the new Greenleaf Church. Like, I don't know where Jacob stands, or Grace, what their parts will be in this new church, but I did like, she's like, call it eternal faith, and I'll probably do a video on this, because I just honestly felt like this came out of left field. That's pretty much my full thoughts on that. And Carissa, Jacob and Tasha, Charity and Phil. Oh yeah, Charity and is leaving the church, and Phil wants to talk with her like they used to. But it's like, if you're in a bad breakup and then the other person wants to make things back the way they were, and it's like, no. Basically, Phil is the living embodiment of the Boyz II Men song On Bended Knee. I love that song, by the way. And probably the funniest scene of the episode is when Judy is telling Phil about how Charity was like, Charity was like Godzilla, basically, coming up in the office with some musical suggestions that she actually liked. And she pretty much threw the engagement ring in her face. That's pretty much what it was. But I love how Phil's like, Judy, can we just pray? And then she gives the most white bread. No offense to white people who watch this video. Look, all I'm saying is, look, I love redheads, so I love Judy. But all I'm saying is the look on Phil's face. I feel like every episode, it's proving actually that he actually did love Charity, and he's only marrying Judy for the position of head pastor. But I don't even know if he's going to go through with it. But let me put it this way: it's like Phil went from soul food to whole grain foods. That's pretty much going from Charity to Judy. That's what I think. Because the look on, that was the most basic prayer I've ever heard in my life. But I get it. They're playing it up for laughs. So Phil, I don't know. Like, do I feel bad for Phil? No, just like I don't feel bad for Charity. They made their beds and they lied in it. Then they have to lay in it. So There we go. But overall, that was the episode itself. Like I said, it wasn't a bad episode. Decent setup for things to come. And I enjoyed it for what it was. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like I did say, the whole Lady Maid kind of coming around about charity just kind of really just came out of left field. There didn't seem to be any build up towards that. But that's just my opinion. So make sure you subscribe. Like I mentioned before, follow me on social media. And if you'd like to donate to the channel, feel free to do so on PayPal or Cash App, or join my Patreon for as little as $1 a month.